Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to fundamentally flip absolutely everything you think you know about successful negotiation. Forget those loud, table-pounding tactics you see in the movies. We're looking at a methodology drawn straight from the high-stakes world of FBI hostage negotiation, specifically from the insights of former lead negotiator Chris Voss. Our main goal today, unpacking a total paradox, how the person doing the least amount of talking is actually the one dominating the room.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about it for a second. In any argument, business deal, or even just a tense family discussion, who actually holds the power? Is it the person aggressively making their case or the person sitting quietly across from them? Well, the counterintuitive truth here is that the listener actually pulls the strings. See, if you're talking, you're really just revealing your strategy. But if you're listening, and I mean listening correctly, you are literally defining the entire conversation.
Which brings us to Section 1. Who is really in control? The myth of the talker.
It's a super common misconception that to win a negotiation, you just have to overpower the other side with words. But let's look at the contrast here. On one side, we have what Voss calls tit-for-tat negotiation. Honestly, this is what most of us do by default, right? It's verbal flexing. It's demanding. I want this, so you gotta give me that. It's this aggressive, alpha-style confrontation that, let's be real, usually just causes both sides to dig their heels in. Now look at the alternative, the illusion of control. This is the FBI-tested method. Instead of demanding, you are quite literally asking for help. You're disarming the other person so completely that they actually start working to solve your problem for you. You just let them do all the heavy lifting, all while they feel like they're the ones running the show.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core psychological shift we need to make. As Chris Voss says, our job as persuaders is easier than we think. It's not to get others believing what we say, it's just to stop them unbelieving. Think about that for a second. People naturally enter a negotiation with their shields all the way up. They don't believe you, they really don't want to help you, and active resistance is just their default state. So your job isn't to force your beliefs down their throat, it's simply to lower that shield of active resistance. Once you suspend their unbelief, they naturally become open to finding a path forward. Moving right along to Section 2. The listener's judo, harnessing your counterpart's energy. I absolutely love this judo metaphor. In judo, you don't use your own strength to defeat an opponent, right? You use their momentum against them. Well, in negotiation, it's exactly the same. You don't force your counterpart into submission. Instead, you use their own words and their own desire for control. And your absolute best weapon for that? The calibrated question. These are open-ended questions designed specifically to ask for help or clarification. They are brilliant because they instantly take all the aggression out of a request. You aren't imposing your point of view, you're inviting them to explain theirs. But because the question is carefully calibrated, it implicitly points their brain towards solving your problem. You're giving them the illusion of control while you quietly set the boundaries of the playing field.
So let's look at Section 3, crafting calibrated questions, the mechanics of how and what. So the crucial point is that the mechanics here are very specific. You absolutely have to avoid closed-ended questions that trap people into a simple yes or no. Those tiny pieces of information require zero thought and often trigger a human need for reciprocity, meaning if they say yes to you, they'll immediately expect a concession in return. We want them thinking deeply, not just reacting. So you've got to shift your vocabulary. Your best friends in this process are the words how and what. For example, if you say, you can't leave the negotiation table, well, you're giving a dictatorial command. The natural human response to that is, watch me. But if you pivot and ask, what do you hope to achieve by going, you instantly knock down their defensive walls. You are forcing them to articulate their strategy. Or take a high-stakes example. Instead of arguing about a ransom demand, the FBI negotiator simply asks, how am I supposed to do that? Delivered with a tone that conveys you genuinely need their help, it forces the kidnapper to look at the logistical reality of their own demand. Suddenly, they have to solve your problem of getting them the money. But here is a massive pitfall you absolutely must avoid. Never use the word why. In almost any language or culture, why is received as an accusation. If I ask you, why did you do that? Your immediate biological response is to defend yourself. It taps right into that natural human urge to argue when we feel backed into a corner. Honestly, you should rarely ask why in a negotiation, with one very specific exception, if you want them to actively defend a goal that actually serves you. For instance, why would you ever change the way you've always done things to try my product? Now suddenly they're eagerly defending the reasons to hire you. Otherwise, just stick to what and how.
Which brings us to Section 4, the rules of engagement, because negotiation is also what you don't say. Having the right questions is really only half the battle. This requires ironclad discipline. If you lose your cool, that illusion of control shatters immediately. Let's rapidly run through these guardrails. First up, regulate your emotions. Simply put, if you can't control your own emotions, you cannot influence someone else's. Second, bite your tongue. When you're verbally assaulted or hit with an unfair demand, your instinct is to strike back. Again, it's that natural urge to argue we all have. Don't do it. Pause. Let your own anger dissipate. Next, do not counterattack. Aggressive confrontation is the ultimate enemy of a constructive deal. Remember, you never want to force your opponent to admit that you are right. You don't need them to say you're right. You just need them to agree to your terms. So when attacked, take a breath and respond with a calibrated question.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it ultimately builds to a massive power shift, achieved simply by asking for help. Think about how liberating that is. You don't have to be the smartest, the loudest, or the most intimidating person in the room. By genuinely asking for help through calibrated questions, you introduce your ideas and requests without ever sounding overbearing or pushy. You are completely disarming their resistance simply by making them feel like the expert.
Let's look at Section 5, Real-World Negotiation, from hostages to the boardroom. Let's bring this down to earth with an everyday, totally relatable business scenario. Imagine a PR consultant doing work for a massive corporation. They haven't paid her for previous work, but she desperately wants to keep them as a client. She's incredibly frustrated, but she knows she can't yell at them or she loses the account entirely. Then the company shamelessly asks her for even more work. She is completely stuck. But instead of exploding or aggressively demanding her money, she calmly summarizes the situation, the pending invoices, the brand new request, and simply asks the calibrated question. How am I supposed to do that?
And the result? She didn't make a single threat. She didn't demand a check. But her calibrated question forced the massive corporation to pause and actually look at the situation from her perspective. It put them right into a problem-solving state. They apologized, revealed a minor internal accounting glitch they hadn't even mentioned, and cut her a check within 48 hours. The company did the heavy lifting to solve her problem, all because she gave them the illusion of control.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this final thought. How will you define your next conversation? Are you going to exhaust yourself trying to talk someone into submission, risking the relationship in the process? Or will you employ listener's judo? The next time you face a conflict, just take a breath, bite your tongue, and simply ask a calibrated how or what question. Let them do the talking, while you take control. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.